Hello, everyone. Welcome back to live. It is Monday. This is definitely a great Monday for me. It's been very slow, but I've been able to get a lot of work done, so I'm pretty excited. This is definitely an amazing way to end a Monday, I think, before I go home, getting to do one of these fun live videos. And I'm super excited about the person I'm doing it with today, so let's see if we can get him on here. Get my volume turned up. Hello.
Hey, brother. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to hear you've had a slow Monday. That makes me feel a little less lazy. Mine hasn't been going at warp speed, but I'm hoping this coffee is gonna lift me.
Perfect. Yeah. We had a lot of conference calls canceled for today. I don't know if someone was sick or just being lazy, but it gave me my full Monday, so I'm thankful for that.
Nice little Monday-itis. That's good. I was up late watching some football reruns, so I've got myself to blame.
Perfect. Yeah, I spent the entire weekend hiking, and normally my body, I end up paying for it on Monday, but this Monday I woke up, I was perfectly fine, so it's been
Good
a
for you.
good Monday.
And do you have any recovery, techniques you use, or any supplements that help you kind of keep going?
Usually I try to do it on a Saturday and just rest on Sunday, but
Yeah.
this time around I decided to do Saturday and Sunday, so I was expecting some punishment, but my body seems to be holding up, so
Good for you. Yeah, nothing beats sleep. I mean, look, the whole supplement industry is like $1 billion industry, but you can't beat just actually resting.
yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. And it's good to see you. You're looking very well, all things considered.
Yeah, thank you. COVID has not gotten me or anyone around me, so I've survived that. And I mean, I've just been trying to keep myself surrounded with positivity. And like you were saying, supplements and all of that stuff, I've been taking that very seriously. I think that when it comes to right now, it's more important to make sure that your body has the right nutrients and all of that in there. So
More than ever. Oh, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't agree more with you. Yeah.
I would say that I am the type of person like energy drinks and all that type of stuff was definitely my go-to. I've been trying to keep it a little bit more natural here recently,
Okay.
with sleep and different types of foods that would give me energy instead of throwing all that into my body.
I hear you. Look, I am a big fan of those Bang energy drinks. I'm not sponsored, but at least, I mean, the one thing I tell people is don't go for the high sugar ones because they're definitely going to make you crash and do you no favors. But I'm with you, dude. I take the multivitamins. I do take BCAA, stuff like that. I am a crazy insomniac. I'm happy to admit that. It often takes me a couple of hours to unwind, and I do a lot of creative thinking at night, which is productive, but I pay the price the next day. So I've tried a little bit of CBD oil as well, and that's been something that's kind of helped. That with melatonin is something that works, but everyone just needs to find their own routine. And I think at the end of the day, just not having your phone in the bedroom is probably the single biggest one. That's been a game changer for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I've been really disconnecting. It helps that I live in a place where there's absolutely no cell phone service, but lately I've been disconnecting in evenings and weekends from any type of cellular connection. So it's been really nice. I will stay in close contact with friends that if I'm communicating with them, but
Mm.
I try to like disconnect from social media, and it's been a life-changing experience for sure.
100%. You got to control what you're inputting. Like I mentioned, I was watching football last night. I mean, that's very conscious. Like finishing with sport, it just helps me unwind. If I'm looking at political stuff at midnight, I mean, my chances of getting good sleep are just,
That's a good way to make sure you have lots of nightmares at
oh,
night.
especially this year. But yeah, do that throughout the day, not right before bed. That's definitely my.
Exactly.
Oh
So
man.
I will go ahead and let you kind of introduce yourself since this will be on my Instagram page, and a lot of
Mm.
people probably don't know who you are. I did kind of post something about you on my stories just so people kind of would tune in, but I'll let you kind of introduce yourself and then we'll just go from there.
Oh man, I'm not the best at introducing myself, but how are you guys doing? Thank you for tuning in. My name is Julian Shaw. I am an actor. I am a director. I've been doing that for a long time. Made a couple of documentaries. I just made my first feature film called Use Me, which I acted in and directed. I think some of you might have seen a marriage equality advertisement I acted in called It's Time, which is one of the coolest things I've ever been involved with. And, people still kind of recognize me from that, which is just amazing. But I've done a lot of stuff. If you have a look on IMDb, I've been working in film and entertainment for years. But I kind of pivoted during this pandemic into another passion of mine, which is fitness and wellness coaching. So I've kind of been helping people online, doing an online business, coaching, training people over Zoom, stuff like that, and a few other ventures that we can kind of get into.
Yeah,
How
awesome.
for you?
Yeah, that's good.
All right.
So, one thing that I kind of wanted to just kind of start the conversation with is there's a lot of people out there that probably would love to get into the acting field. And when it comes to stuff like that, I know that that is something that you have to have a lot of drive and a lot of passion for. And you said you've been doing it for a while. What are some things that you kind of do to kind of keep your drive and passion going, especially when things maybe aren't like you're not jumping in on lead roles and instantly getting exactly what you try for? What are some things that you do to kind of keep yourself going?
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point. I think a lot of people, if they're just getting into acting, they think, oh, I'm just going to go straight to the leading man status. But at the end of the day, unless you're a freakish kind of outlier, right, and you just have some quality and confluence of good luck where you just get picked up right away, you're probably going to have to work up, just like any profession. You're going to do smaller roles, you're going to work for free, but you're going to be building your value while you do that. I think the advice I have is it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So, I mean, look, one thing I look at all the time, I got a vision board just off frame here, and it says rest, don't quit, because you are going to want to quit so many times. I mean, here's the deal. You might do 50 auditions and then you book one part. I mean, those are realistic odds. And I say that to maybe a budding actor, not to discourage you, but just know what you're getting into. That's the math of it. So you're going to have 49 no's before you get the one yes. Here's the deal. Celebrate doing a good audition, right? Celebrate when you've prepared well and done good work. Don't get so hung up on the outcome. I know that's the hardest thing, because you want to be in movies, you want to be in TV, and it's amazing when you book it, and the money's amazing, and all that stuff is amazing. But you have to become process and craft oriented, not outcome oriented. And the people I know who are super successful and make the millions and become famous and all that good stuff, they're actually like the most process oriented and not that outcome oriented. That's a trend that I keep seeing. So I think really that's my only advice. If you can't learn to love the craft, you're probably not going to stick it out through all the rejection.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I've been reading a book by Jay Shetty. I don't know if you know who he is, but
Yeah.
awesome.
He's a big positive thinking, for lack of a better term, kind of guy, manifestation and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so just today I was reading the chapter about fear, and one thing that he was talking about was trees, and they like built this ecosystem like in this like contained area, and it was supposed to be like perfect air, perfect water, perfect environment, and they wanted to kind of see how the people grew in that environment. And one problem that they were having was the trees, after they got to a certain height, they fell over, and they couldn't figure
Oh,
out why. And then they realized that it's the wind that the trees out in the real world are constantly hit with, that they have to develop deeper roots to keep themselves held down. But within that contained environment, they didn't have that wind to force them to dig deeper roots. So they had very shallow roots and would fall over. And I feel like that, when it comes to, a lot of people have asked me how I've gained success, and I don't think they realize how long it's taken me to get where I'm at. And one thing that
yeah.
I always tell people to think of is you've got to go through the hard times to get to that top part. Otherwise, your roots are going to be really shallow, and you can have that instant success. And you see it all the time. There's lots of people on YouTube that might put out that viral video that shoots them to the top.
Right.
But a lot of times their careers are very short-lived because they got shot to the top so fast, they don't know any of the methods to kind of build up to that type of success. So I think like what you're doing is exactly that. Like you're building those deeper roots into a career that you're really passionate about.
Dude, I love the analogy. I'm probably going to steal that, and I'll Jay Shetty. No, you're absolutely right. And you hit on a big thing, which is, look, I can be impatient like anyone. Of course, I want to book every job I audition for. Of course, I want every single film treatment I write to turn into a movie, right? Of course you do. But I kind of put it back on people, and I say kind of what you said. Do you want to have a real quick like thing where you might get famous or you might get some big job and then you just burn out, or are you trying to do this for decades? I mean, I've been lucky enough to actually be making a living now for a couple decades. I started doing this when I was a teenager. Um, I'm in it for the long haul, right? And as you say you fluke into something, say you do somehow get into it. How are you gonna thrive, on set? I mean, these are like crazy 16-hour days. It's a crazy demanding job when you get it. You better be good at it, when you get that opportunity. So more preparation for the opportunity if you get it, I think is important. I just couldn't agree more. And the adversity shapes you, like you said. It's what galvanizes you. So that's a great analogy. I like that.
Yeah. So I know that one thing that I've reached when a lot of people have been coming out to me and talking to me about wanting to start a YouTube channel, they want to know how I've gotten so many followers on Instagram. I'm the type of person that I always ask, so like, what do you want to do? Like, what is your message? And a lot of people have told me they want to be famous.
Yeah.
So I run into that a lot when it comes to people that kind of reach out to me, and I've had, since I started doing these lives, I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say, hey, I want to do a live with you. And I ask them, and I'm like, so what type of message do you want to put out? Because
Right.
I'm all about jumping on live and having discussions with people. I think this is a lot of fun. But a lot of people don't realize that it's the message that's behind the work that we're doing. It's not fame that we are seeking.
Right.
I know that when it came to the thing that you did with the marriage equality thing, like,
Mm.
there was a really large message behind that. And when we talked last week, you were kind of talking about how you were going to be excited if like, I think you said like 5,000 or 500,000 people saw it.
Five.
And it's,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and honestly, we had a conversation on set, like we were making that thing, and I want to say it was the cinematographer, and we're just like, look, if the right 5,000 people see this could really change things, and that was almost like a big dream to me. I'd never been in something that had gone viral, and again, to the point of that, none of us were thinking, oh, this thing's going to go viral. That was not a foregone conclusion at all. That topic is actually not as popular as it kind of became subsequently. So we were just focused on the work and communicating the emotion, and we were just trying to make the best thing we could. And as you say, when you're more focused on that and the message, good things tend to happen rather than thinking, oh, imagine if this blows up, I become famous. And I get that too. I get a lot of people, I've even tutored some young actors and they're big on the fame. And it's kind of like, okay, great. I get building a platform. That's legitimate. Like, fame is a tool. But as you said, what are you going to do with that platform? Right? Do you just want strangers coming up to you and taking a selfie with you? I mean, that's great. It's flattering, but is that the end game? And I think for you're doing great because look, the first time I spoke to you, it was palpable. I just felt this positivity. I was drawn to it. I resonated with your worldview. And I think you do have a deeper message. And I think that's why you're doing well. And I think people just need to ask what their real why is in any of this stuff. Why am I doing it? How do I want to help people? What's the purpose? And that's the thing that nourishes you and kind of keeps you going. And back to the thing about acting, I love to give an audience joy. That's the thing. It's not so much about me. You got to focus on what are you doing for somebody else. If you can make somebody's day better, give them escapism, put a smile on their face, that's the why. And that's what keeps you going through the hard times, I think.
yeah, most definitely. I feel like when I started getting some attention, so growing up, like, I would have never thought that this would be where I'm at all. I was
Really?
very shy. I remember I had a birthday. It was my 18th birthday, and I invited tons of people, and only one person showed up.
Oh,
So
man.
for me, like, my brain has always kind of been in that place. It's almost like I'm still that person. He
Yeah.
lives inside of me, where every time something like this happens and I'm just like, wow, there is that many people interested in what I have to say. And I would say that I grew into my looks, and it wasn't something that I ever valued as something that I could use out there. And once people
Right.
started like complimenting me, and I kind of realized that, hey, if people are going to be looking at me, I'm going to make sure that they are getting a positive message with whatever they're looking at. And I've had a lot of people, they say hateful things towards people that are more attractive and have a platform, because we all know that looks do kind of pull you up in ranks when it comes to Instagram and stuff like that. But I definitely think that when it comes to the message, there are some people out there that their message is, look at me, tell me I'm pretty.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
Whereas there's other people out there that are just like, hey, you're looking at me, go vote. Hey, you're looking at me, make sure you're doing positive stuff out there in the world. Believe in yourself. Like, my message has never been, look at me.
Mm.
I am aware that people look at me because of the way that I look. But I've always wanted to inspire other people, and I've been doing life coaching, and my happiest moment is when I see those breakthroughs with people, when I see people
Yeah.
finally learn to believe in themselves and go out there and just like do amazing things. And
Right.
I find more joy in that than I do seeing hundreds of likes underneath of my pictures.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, it's funny, and I train people. I do a little life coaching myself, but I've also done physical coaching. The thing that satisfies me is muscles are great, abs, six pack, pecs, it's all good stuff. But it's like it's the in internal fortitude they're building. It's the mental health they're building. It's that inner strength they're building. So much more satisfying to see that. And I get all your points. You know, look, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I just never gave much thought to, honestly, like how I came across my appearance, whether I had a, whether I could sexualize myself more in terms of my image and stuff like that. And I totally agree with you. I've just had this kind of realization of, oh my God, you look online. Yeah, sex sells. And you can look like anything. I mean, like I said, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. No matter what you look like, people will think you're beautiful. I think it's finding the inner confidence to radiate it out. Like, hey, this is me. Do you like what you see? Right?
Yeah.
Um, Rather than some certain aesthetic ideal that you need to live up to. Because as we said, that's objective. But yeah, man, I mean, I've had a real realization about how much sex sells. It's really crazy. I mean, I have a great example, like, so I made this movie called Use Me, right? It took 5 years to make. Biggest project I've ever done. I wrote it, I directed it, and there's a sex scene in the movie, right? And to help promote the movie, we like released the sex scene from the movie online and sold it, right? It's not porn, it's movie sex, but we're like, this will be a funny kind of thing to tie into promoting the movie. Here's the punchline. That clip of the sex scene made more money than the movie made,
Oh,
which is,
wow.
this was an internationally released, we got a great distributor, global release, and the sex clip has sold more. And it's just like, wow, sex really sells. So then you're like, okay, how do I use it? If people find me appealing, how do I use that to package something good? And honestly, I mean, what I've just done is I've taken kind of fitness, wellness content, packaged it in a bit more of a sexy way, and it's just taken off. Because I think if you got a good product and then you just put a little sex appeal, a little sizzle on the steak, that does seem to be the recipe for success. And you're a very handsome man, and I see you doing that yourself. And power to you, my friend. That's what I say.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like people are kind of discriminated against for using their looks to move ahead in the world. And I've talked about this in other videos where people kind of say, oh, but the way that you look is why your life is the way it is. And it's definitely a mindset mixed into it. But you have to look at your strengths. Each individual
Mhm.
person has their own strengths. And we would never discriminate against someone for using their brains. And people are born like, yes, you can like mold your brain and become smarter by educating yourself and keep always putting more information in. But
Yeah.
that's the same thing when it comes to looks, I believe. I could easily just wake up out of bed and put on a t-shirt and come into work, but I do try to make myself look presentable. And
Mm.
I think that in today's society, like, it almost seems like it's a double-ended sword.
Mhm.
It can really be helpful, and it can also be used against you. I've had people uh, they just make assumptions about people's lives as if you are an attractive person, that your life is perfect and that life
Right.
is handed to you. And I would say that life is handed to everyone in different ways. And when it comes to looks, I think looks you are granted in certain things, and you have to know how to use those tools. And I would say what you were saying before when it comes to sex sells.
Right.
Um, when you are an attractive person, that is something that you can use to your advantage. And I don't see any problem with that as long as you're not doing it to like hurt somebody else. And I think you can do that with any type of tool that you're given in life.
I totally agree. And I think, people can feel guilty about some kind of advantage they get, because you're right, everybody gets handed these advantages and disadvantages. I've had a few kind of very wealthy friends who have this guilt about it. Maybe they inherited some old money or something like that. And I just always say to them, listen, let go of the guilt, maximize this financial gift you were given, because I promise you, in some way, life will disadvantage you somewhere else. And I'm not saying that in a nasty way, but it's just a fact. No one gets dealt aces in every aspect of life, up or down. So yeah, unapologetically use anything you can, because for sure, I've been blessed with some things. I've had to bust my ass in other areas of life, and being disadvantaged in other areas. So yeah, use whatever you can. It's all a tool. I agree. But that's interesting hearing that. And I think, I think there's a lot of substance to what you do in your message, but if you're a cute guy like yourself, people might think, oh, he's superficial, or, it made it easy to write you off. And it's complicated, dude, because we need to look deeper than skin deep. But people are quicker than ever to make assumptions. I think because we're so bombarded with media that people are just trying to make a snap judgment just from the way you look. And that's rough no matter what.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people like I read every comment when it comes to stuff underneath my social media. When it comes to my YouTube channel, I try to respond to everyone. And
Yeah.
there's definitely some people that even after watching a lot of my videos, which I put myself out there and I'm a lot more vulnerable than a lot of people.
Mm,
And I've really found my strength in my vulnerability just because once you put it out there, it can't be used against you. I've realized that when it comes to my life, there are things that I've done that people have tried to like use against me, and I'm just like, I owned it already. I'm sorry, but you
that's
can't use something against me that I've already owned.
I love that. But it's funny how selective people are, because I don't know. A couple people sort of accused me of, doing the thing that we're all kind of guilty of, you can make your Instagram a highlight reel and only show the best. But in fact, I feel like I've been very open about experiencing depression in the past, always working on mental health, how I go about that. And yeah, it's a weird one. People can be selective in terms of what they want to see, but I do agree that there's real strength and vulnerability. Ironically, when you open that up and show, hey, I struggle just like anyone else, I found that's really brought people to me. I see the same with you as well.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people uh, get so caught up in what they think their audience wants them to post
For sure.
that they forget that the most authentic self that they should be putting out is exactly what the right crowd is going to need.
Right.
I've
Yes.
talked to a lot of people about starting stuff on social media, and I'm just like, just be yourself 100%, because if you try to pretend to be something that you're not, eventually it's that veil's going to come down and
For
people are going
real.
to see you.
Yeah, and it's the best thing. And look, I've had to like counter program that. Like I grew up, look, I was very successful with public speaking and debating, right? When I was growing up in Australia, I was like a state champion in public speaking, right? And got all these accolades. And I kind of think it's done me a massive disservice the way that the world's gone. Because I think that rawness and authenticity is what people crave now. And actually, sometimes I found I'm guilty of being too polished, and I'm not getting my message across. And I'm like, fuck, I need to keep it a bit more. I'm not being myself enough. So it's a hard thing. Some of us, I think, have to unlearn that a little bit. Um, I kind of like what you said, though. I just think about how maybe you're using, if people think you're cute or whatever, I like how you're still getting across, hey, but you need to vote, or, right? And, I post some sexy pictures on my Instagram, but it'll be in a fitness context where I'm maybe demonstrating a mobility move like I did today or something like that. So it's nice to use sexuality as a Trojan horse to actually get a deeper message across about wellness or being politically, conscious of what's going on in the world or whatever your message is. I do like that.
Yeah, just like when you were talking about being polished. So I grew up with my family trying to project the image of perfection.
Yeah.
So people always assumed that, like, oh, your family's perfect. And it was very hard to constantly always try to be that perfect person. So
Yeah.
I would say that I'm definitely a person that constantly struggles with image. And when it comes to, oh gosh, what are people going to think? It does cross my mind. It's definitely something that I've kind of broke the habit just by constantly opening myself up more and more.
I love it.
I've learned that there are certain vulnerabilities that I'm still working on that I have to keep within myself until I'm strong enough to share it
Yeah.
because social media can be harsh. And if you put a heartstring out there that you're not ready to let anyone say whatever they feel like, it can hurt. So you definitely have to be conscious. I think another thing is it's nice to be authentic and it's nice to kind of put yourself out there for the world to see, but you also have to know what parts of yourself you need to keep from the internet.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose yourself to the internet. And
Yeah.
I think that's a line that's really hard for any content creator to realize.
Yeah, for sure. And I relate to what you're saying about, like, look, my mental health, I've been doing a great job with, in the last few years, ups and downs, but I found the tools to kind of work through it. I'm glad I probably didn't open up at the time that I didn't have the tools. I don't think that would have been helpful. There is such thing as too vulnerable, to your point. If I had opened up kind of in the thick of it, especially my early 20s, I had a really rough time. That could have been a dark path because I think I would be reading every comment and people's judgment and really taking it to heart. So yeah, there is a point where maybe you need a little bit of resolution before you can put something out there just for your own well-being, I think, right?
Yeah. I don't know if you know who Joshua DTV is. He recently became very vulnerable online. He's been in the limelight for a very long time on YouTube, and I think he felt a responsibility to share his struggles online. And he definitely went through a very rough patch. And I looked up to him even more so.
Right.
I would say he's probably learned that maybe that vulnerable state that he was in, he wasn't ready to share that. He's definitely come a long way from there. Thankfully, he has recovered and he's doing a lot better because it's crazy because his message was something that rang clear to me ever since I met him at my first YouTube event, and it was always "stay kind." That was like his like slogan for his YouTube channel was "be kind to others, stay kind." And he kind of had a moment where everyone was just being so hateful towards him, and he was trying so hard to stay kind, and he just kind of snapped online.
Oh, wow.
And I think that at that point, he was sharing so deep that when those hateful comments were pouring in, that it just got too much. And he had to pull himself away from social media for a while. So I think he gave an example of you've got to be careful with how much you share. But seeing his recovery and where he's at now and the message that he's jumped back to, I'm definitely proud of where he's at now with his social media.
That's awesome, man. That's amazing. I got to look into that whole thing. I'm sure you've probably said this a few times, but you use the analogy of the bugs going to the light, right?
Yes.
I bet have you said that a few times on
I
here?
don't think I've actually used it on Instagram Live yet. So,
Dude, can you please drop it now? Because I heard that I was like, oh, that makes so much sense.
yeah. So I was talking to you last week about it, and the analogy I was using is just like people have to realize that they are lights, and negativity, I would consider the bugs that are drawn to the lights.
Yes.
And when it comes to negativity, bugs can't like destroy the light. No matter how much they hit it, it's going to stay pretty strong. But you can be so bright that you are just completely surrounded by negativity. And you've got to realize that when you are a light, you're going to attract that type of like energy because people don't like seeing that, especially if they're a bug and you're a light. There's a big difference in that. But you have to remember to stay extremely bright because that's how other lights find each other. So within darkness, light can always be found. It might be something that requires more people to come around. So like a simple like candlelight can't be seen so far, but
Mhm.
like the more that you have lit, the better it's going to be able to be seen. And when you come together, the brighter you can shine. So like I've really been trying to use my platform as a way to ignite everyone's lights because the bugs can get a little bit crazy. I've definitely 2020 has been the bugs have been coming hard.
Yeah, of
And
course,
I've just been
because you're
reaching out to people.
dark time, so that's gets the attention. The bugs
Yeah.
are gonna, you know.
Yep. I've been really trying, like, and it's not just like one side or the other. Like, I think a lot of people think that if you're on this side, you're a light, on this side, you're a bug. But
Mhm.
there's lights and bugs on both sides,
Yeah,
and you can be a negative person on either side, whether it's politics or any type of issue. People need to realize that you have to be able to be a little bit more open-minded when it
yeah.
comes to people's opinions and you can't classify someone so quickly. I am constantly reaching out to people on social media saying, "Hey, that message is coming across really negative. Is there a way you can reword that, put out the same message, but not attack people or make people feel bad for having different views than your own?" Because if you attack people, there's no way that you're going to be able to have a conversation and have any way of compromising or switching their views.
Completely, 100%. I agree with all of that. Yes, there's certainly different ways of expressing the same viewpoint, and I tend to gravitate towards your point of view, which is use the positive. You know that has a stronger pull. That is more likely to convert someone, and it doesn't always even have to be that you have to convert someone to your point of view. You know, what's the essence of democracy? It's respectfully saying, "Hey, you know what? You have a different point of view. I can actually see where you're coming from. I can respect that. It's not my view, but." That's the ideal, and obviously we're falling a little short at this time right now. But I love that, and I think I just like the message of keep putting your light out. And the one thing I will say is, if you're successful or positive, you're going to get more bugs. I mean, when I started out, it's not happening. No one really comes at you. But if you do anything successful, you know, like my movie came out, or if I have a YouTube video that does well, you get the haters coming at you. It really is a part of success, and you should almost take it as a sign that you're doing well. Because honestly, if you're doing nothing and your message is not getting anywhere, you're not going to have haters. So consider yourself lucky.
Yeah.
But I also try not to view anyone with a dissenting point of view as a hater either, you know, because as you say, sometimes you got to hear out the other point of view. So it's a balance for sure. I think you said that pretty well.
Maybe
I
you can look at it as like the bugs are lightning bugs, and instead
right.
of them shining their own light, they're attacking someone else's light. And maybe
Yeah.
you just have to teach them how to ignite their own light. And you can't do that by being a bug zapper and just destroying them all. Like, there you go.
That's a nice way to put it.
Spin it that way.
I like, but it's interesting. Everyone has different points of view. I even just being sorry. I look down occasionally because I'm seeing a couple different comments, and it's sort of like someone was like, "Geez, Julian's accent is tricky." I think they might have been. I get. I'm a New Zealander, then I went to Australia. I've been here 5 years, and then someone else said, "God, they're both so American," and I was like, "Those are two completely different comments back to back." I kind of sense it, but anyway, we've all got points of view. You know, that's the thing. We've all got our own unique point of view.
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to bring up is the
Yes.
fact that you did that LGBT marriage equality video on YouTube, and that's something that you were very successful in. And this is something that I've heard a lot in the LGBT community, and it's just the fact that when it comes to roles like that, they expect those roles to be casted by LGBT community members, and you aren't part of the LGBT community. So, what is something that, like, what type of thoughts go around that when it comes to working on a project like that?
Wow. Okay, it's a great question. I don't think I've ever been asked that so directly. So that's good. I welcome that. I guess the first thing I say is I do consider myself an ally. You know, and I think if you speak to my friends over the past decades, they tell you that it's not just like a public image thing. It's something I've very much been involved with, and it's a personal part of my life. Well, you know, it's interesting. Like, I'm so pleased to see that now it's almost become this thing like, oh, it's a great or you get kudos to play a gay part or something like that. Certainly when I did that ad, it wasn't quite like that. And in fact, I had a few people say, you know, you should be careful with your image. You know, people might misconstrue this or something. And I said, well, why do I need to be careful? I believe in this 100%. And I was kind of like, what are you saying? That people might think I was gay? Why is that a problem? Why would I have any issue with that? You know, so I just didn't quite get on board with that. Yes, and it did subsequently become this big success. But like I said, we didn't view it that way. We were so focused on the message, and to your point, making something positive. We were taking the high road. The brief of it was kind of like love is love, love is universal. And I think the most pleasing thing about that ad, I mean, there've been amazing stories, you know, of people who saw it and maybe it inspired them to come out to their family or something. Like it, you know, I get goosebumps thinking about that. That's incredible. But the thing that really blows me away is maybe you meet someone from a conservative background and actually they'll say, you know, I changed my mind after seeing that. And that's what we were trying to do is actually convert a few people, you know, and make sure that that issue of marriage equality was gaining traction. Because I think it's like any issue, you can't just have your supporters, your allies. You need to expand the reach because people were going to vote on that in Australia. So I was just proud that we were able to do that. And inevitably, you may open yourself up to some kind of criticism. I heard a few words I had to look up in the dictionary, like, well, it was a little heteronormative. I thought, wow, okay. But I think at the end of the day, I just viewed it as this was a universal message. It was a universal portrait of love. And I can say anecdotally, and from the fact that Australia ended up voting in support of marriage equality, that that positive message did ring true, you know. Yeah, I don't know. I found the community unbelievably inclusive, loving, welcoming to me. It's true. I mean, it's one of the coolest things I've ever been involved with. I loved the whole thing. The whole experience was amazing. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So when it comes to stuff like this, I've always been the type of person that I've tried to share the message of how important it is to welcome allies into any type of minority group, just because I know that when I came out that my sisters were very supportive of me being part of the LGBT community. And because of that, my sisters actually lost some of their leadership roles in the churches because around here, LGBT is just not accepted in a lot of the smaller towns. And to be an ally, that is putting yourself in a position where you are going to be attacked for certain things, whether it's attacked by the LGBT community because they don't believe that a straight man should be playing a gay role. You are going to get attacked by the Christian people that the LGBT get attacked by all the time.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, people are going to say, ooh, are you sure that's the image that you want to put out there for the world?
Right.
And I don't think a lot of the LGBT people that are attacking people in those situations are looking at the larger picture of things, because I do believe that we suffer from this big masculinity thing where men are supposed to be masculine. And I think that when a straight man plays a gay role, that is opening up to a side of something that's very different than what we expect the male people to portray, especially in the acting community. I've recently started watching RuPaul's Drag Race. It wasn't something I'd ever really watched.
Right.
And I think that show will attract certain people. And like you were saying, I think the goal is to switch some people over. We want people to become more open-minded. And I don't think that RuPaul's show is going to be something that pulls in an audience that isn't already supportive of that show and the people in our community. But recently they've been doing like celebrity stuff where they are pulling in straight celebrities, where you've got like the men doing the drag and then kind of sharing their experience.
Right.
And I just think it's an amazing message to kind of put out there. And we've got to be a little bit more welcoming to the straight people that are jumping in and being our allies, because they don't have to be our allies. Like, you could completely go out there and act and never be supportive of the LGBT community, but you're choosing to make sure that that's part of your platform.
Yeah, absolutely. But look, I understand people's maybe hesitations or reservations too. I respect that, but I love what you said, and it's like, yes, I'm a friend. I'm here to help, And not even saying you need help, but I'm here to help anyway, you know, and I believe in these issues. And yeah, the bigger the better. That was how I certainly viewed it. And you do have to do things a little bit different to get away from preaching to the choir, you know? And I think especially in 2020, there's so much content made that reinforces people's beliefs. And to your point, you got to do things a little bit different to get a new audience in and get new allies. I love what you're saying. I think that's very cool. It was very interesting to me, though. It did open up a bit of a debate about, you know, can someone who identifies as straight play a gay part and that kind of thing. And it just always struck me. I heard just some really weird stuff. I guess I can share this. Like, you know, I had one guy saying to me, you know, it was really wrong that he acted in that ad. And he was a film critic. And I was like, that's so interesting to me, you know, because I just saw that you gave Brokeback Mountain, you know, 5 stars. Right, great movie. But as far as I know, you know, both of the male leads identify as straight. Of course, the late great Heath Ledger. And I was like, "What's the difference?" And he said, "Well, that was a feature film. That was like 2 hours." And I said, "Okay, so it's the duration of the content. So if it's 2 hours, but if it's 2 minutes, whoa, 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 no, 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 it's got to be over an hour if you're going to be straight." There were so many interesting contradictions and stuff. And then I just kind of thought as well. So what should someone who identifies as gay not play a straight part? I'm kind of like, this starts to erode the very notion of acting or stepping into someone else's shoes with empathy and bringing all of yourself to someone who lives a different life. That's what the essence of acting is. It's the ultimate empathy game, right? So there were some interesting arguments and debates. I kind of stepped away from it, but yeah, it's a bit of a minefield. I mean, I'm sure you'd agree that it's a little weird to put limitations on actors playing parts, because that's kind of what the essence of acting is, don't you think?
Yeah, I feel like it would be a very different story if your acting career had you playing gay roles and then your personal life and your platform didn't support the LGBT community. I feel like I would be a little bit more offended if you didn't share that love for the LGBT community outside of an acting role. So like if your platform was always very anti-LGBT, I would probably feel a little bit more offended if a straight person played a gay person. But when it comes to your platform, like, and just from knowing you, like, you don't seem like the person that would ever be that way. So I feel like when people attack people for certain things like that, I want people to realize that sometimes we might be hurting the cause that we're trying to move so far forward. I know that our current politics and the administration that's in the White House right now, that's a really hard like battle to fight right now. We've got to focus all of our energy pushing on people that are trying to move us backwards. Mm-hmm. But I think that a lot of celebrities and a lot of people who are allies, I know that recently I've kind of felt a little bit more pushed upon by like the Black Lives Matter movement. I've definitely learned that I've had to educate myself, but my heart has always been they deserve equality. They should not be putting up with any of the stuff that they're having to put up with in our society right now. Sure. And I did get a lot of pushback. So I kind of got a taste of what it feels like for straight allies that are really putting themselves out there to try to help the LGBT movement. And I would never want an ally to feel the way that I felt when certain people sent me some of the messages I got. And just knowing that there are going to be some doors that a straight person can walk right through that Sure. are closed to LGBT community. And yes, the LGBT community by themselves with enough force will probably get through that door whether or not a straight person opens it for us.
I agree.
But yes. If there's someone on the other side that can literally open a door and make it a day transition instead of a 5-year transition of going through the political system and getting things like voted upon, why not accept that type of help from Sure. people who are like, hey, I want to help.
Yeah.
The door.
The more the merrier, like I said. And I've also made the point of, hey, I'm not saying you need my help, by the way, but happy to offer it kind of thing. You made a few interesting points there. Yes. And look, I do agree in terms of the acting thing. Like, if you were totally against an issue and then you did some ad and you were clearly it was for the money, yeah, that's very disingenuous. But I mean, you're familiar with my platform and stuff I do. Obviously, this is a pretty important issue to me. It's also funny. I've had the term "gay for pay" thrown at me a few times. For the record, I actually didn't take an acting fee for that ad. So, like 9 years later, just want to clear that up. It was definitely not gay for pay. It was. I love this. I love this ad and I love this message, and I'm 100% behind this community. With the Black Lives Matter thing, I mean, yeah, it's been controversial because, look, I think any decent person is opposed to any kind of systemic inequality. We want to end racism, but yes, it becomes down. It comes down to how do we achieve that, and that's where there's some variance, even if we're all for ending, racism. What kind of backlash did you get, if you don't mind me asking?
When it came to, so in the LGBT community, I would consider myself like the front end warrior of equality. Like I put myself out there. I go out to churches and I give speeches to communities I know that aren't welcoming to my side of the story.
Right.
And so for me, I've always just been right up there, and I'm like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I've put myself in situations where I didn't feel the safest, but I
Mm.
knew that my message needed to be heard. Uh, I realized that when I jumped onto the Black Lives Matter movement, I wanted that same role, but I wasn't part of the Black community. So I had to play a different role. And it took having conversations with people that I really cared about. And it made me realize that, yes, I'm very uneducated on this movement. I'm not fully aware of everything that people in the Black community face on a regular basis. And I would say the more I became educated, the less speed I stepped on. And it took having really hard conversations with people I really cared about and who also really cared about me, because I've learned that I can't please everyone. So when it comes to sticking your neck out for a community you're not a part of course you're going to step on people's toes. But at the end of the day, where was your heart in that?
Yeah.
And the people that do know you a lot deeper than just a social media presence. So my friends that know where my heart lies, my friends that know what I do on a regular basis every single day, those people were like, that was a great message. It was people more along the lines of just getting to know me, maybe just followed me on Instagram and see smiling faces. They didn't really know anything about me with depth.
Yeah.
So it was a very shallow level judgment that they made their judgment on me, but it still hurt all the same, because I'm the type of person, I go out to the battlefield with my heart. I don't go around throwing punches. I don't throw out hate.
Yeah.
Everything I do is out of love.
Yeah.
So when you go out to fight inequality with love and kindness, and someone throws a knife in your heart and says, like, shut up, I don't want to hear what you have to say, you have no right to speak here, it hurts, because that's not what you're expecting when you're going out with the mindset of creating a positive change.
Mm. I hear you. Well, look, good on you for doing work in the community. And again, this thing of maybe opening minds or changing viewpoints, that to be at the forefront of that is a really challenging thing. But I know just even from talking to you how much time you've put into educating yourself and learning more and reading, about these issues. And I've kind of taken the same view. I think one thing that was a bit problematic was, people criticize for maybe not doing enough on social media, maybe not posting enough about it. And I think a lot of people actually were taking the time to say, hey, I don't know enough about this. I need to talk to people who've been directly affected by this. I need to read more. I think a few people have pulled back, and rather than putting their own message out, are just getting educated, learning, and maybe being very active in the community. They're just not tweeting about it. And that's very valid too. I don't think it should all come down to judgment by social media. I think there are people doing a lot in the community and letting their actions speak louder than their Instagram posts, so to speak.
Yeah, that's definitely, I feel like I posted a video a while back about like Shawn Mendes, Taylor Swift, and other straight actors that have played gay roles. And I kind of talked about how these people are supporting our cause. These people are sticking their necks out there and playing gay roles. They're putting the LGBT at the front of their platform.
Yeah.
And I watched when Taylor Swift put out her You Need to Calm Down song, which her music video had RuPaul and tons of LGBT people from all different walks of life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I personally thought it was amazing. I'm not like, I didn't think it was her best work, her best song she's ever put out. I definitely think her most recent album that she put out has a lot more progressive movement, and it was really skilled and talented.
Mm.
Um, but I think that a lot of people forget that with someone as big as Taylor Swift, she's got a large platform.
Oh my God.
Taylor Swift can say whatever she wants,
Right.
and she will still have followers.
Yeah.
And Taylor Swift is choosing, who came from a very country conservative background. She came from like Nashville,
Totally. Yeah.
and she has been putting her neck out there in politics here recently. And I've been watching very negative responses come from the
Yeah.
LGBT community that she is fighting so hard to defend.
Mm.
And the thing that I don't want to see is celebrities with that much of a pull, because she's got young girls from very rural areas,
Yeah.
where I live in very rural areas, and I watch who is pouring into the youth. And people are saying, well, the youth is becoming more woke. They're not. The
No.
people are pouring into them their
Yeah.
own beliefs. And if we can get Taylor Swift on that platform, pouring that into the young minds, that's a big win for us, because she is opening people's minds who, if they live in a rural area where even the LGBT community is being poured into by very conservative people. When I moved back to Virginia, I couldn't figure out why I wasn't really able to connect with the LGBT community. And I realized there was a lot of self-hate in our community. They
Wow.
thought they somehow were like God's chosen gays, and they were somehow clean, but the rest of the LGBT community was disgusting, foul beasts. And I loved moving away and going to the big cities and finding acceptance for myself. I truly learned how to love myself for being gay and Christian. And I can truly say I love myself 100%. And that's what I try to get other people to notice. But a lot of people have been attacking celebrities for opening up. I saw people say Lady Gaga is using the gays to build her platform. No, she has a platform whether she supports us or not.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And I think people need to realize that we want people with large platforms to tell people, hey, these people are equal. These people deserve your love. These people are people that have feelings and emotions and are hurt by the things that you're saying.
Mm.
And I love seeing celebrities like Taylor Swift, Lady Gaga, throw themselves at campaigns that are completely anti-LGBT, because that is losing fans left and right for
Right.
them as well. And they're choosing to do that because they believe in fighting for that message.
Look, I hear what you say. I mean, like most Americans, I think it was like number one on Netflix. I watched, the documentary about Taylor Swift, right, which I thought was very good. And look, whether or not you like her music, I happen to like quite a few of her songs, but I think the sincerity was palpable, and I think that's what it comes down to. I can completely understand a thing of like, oh, these people are jumping on the bandwagon or something like that, or that they may be gaining something from it. But I think when you look at actions over time, look at the platform over time, you can kind of tell. You got a bullshit detector. You can see how invested they are. And she's someone who strikes me as very earnest and very sincere. And yeah, doing it at great risk. And obviously, the record label would prefer that she doesn't say anything political ever. I'm sure a lot of Lady Gaga's people would be the same. Just, hey, keep politics out of it. You don't need to come down strong on any issue. So it does take balls, because you're potentially losing an audience. And I would agree with you. I think it should be applauded. And even if you don't personally agree with the views, I think you still have to say, that does take courage. You do have something to lose, right, by getting behind any issue. So I agree completely.
Yeah, like, people talk about like the concepts and how they went about it. And to be honest, like, you're never going to please everybody.
You can't.
So we have to look at the bigger picture of it. What was the message she was putting across? It might have been handled in a better way. People were saying that it was very stereotyping of the gay community, and the gay community comes with stereotypes. That doesn't mean that you have to follow it. That's one thing that
Right.
I always try to put out is, I'm gay, but I am not the stereotype gay. Like, I recognize everybody within the community, and I try to hear everyone's stories. and I form my own self. And the more I have like fallen in love with myself, and the more I've realized that just being myself, no matter what,
Mm,
the more people I seem to upset.
right.
I am one of those people that I fight for equality every day. Everything I post is to raise awareness for that. And I put myself in situations that I don't necessarily have to because of the message I want the world to hear. And it's crazy how much pushback you can get from a community that you're trying to represent and bring forward.
Was
So,
was it that music video that you mentioned? Was that something where it was seen as, okay, we got the, queer eye for the straight guy cameos and all that? Was that seen as stereotypical? I mean, look, I just think sometimes, you're playing in pop culture. You were trying to make a statement that people get in a second. I mean, this is an attention deficit culture, right? So different platforms have different levels of depth, right? There's only so much you can convey in an Instagram post or in a music video. I think sometimes people have to recognize the medium, right? I think
yeah.
it's tough to criticize a music video where you are playing with pop culture or personas that are just going to get this instant recognition. That's the medium. That's the language of it. Uh, yeah, look, the one thing I will say is it's very hard to please people nowadays, and people are looking to be offended. I do think that. So there's only so much you can do. Taking the high road and focusing on the positives is kind of how I like to go about things. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I guess wrapping up this video, what I would love to talk about is just the fact that I think that a lot of people forget that Instagrammers, YouTubers, celebrities that are in movies, they are people.
Mm,
I think that they forget that just because some people, even someone like Beyonce, who literally has her like own like persona of who she is, I feel like people forget that these are people.
yeah.
And like, luckily for me, I've reached out to a couple celebrities during this like pandemic, and they're just sitting around their house.
Yeah.
They're doing exactly like what we're doing.
Yeah.
And I've had people like come back and have conversations with me. You've done a couple things in like the film industry. Like, have you met anybody that you were kind of just like blown away with how they were in person?
Hmm. I mean, I've had some friends who've gone on to do very well. Um, I think going back to just treating it as a process and a craft is really the way to go. I think, look, something we talked about, you asked about, I was in this Hollywood movie briefly, it's kind of this little part of this movie called San Andreas, and I got to work with my favorite actor, Paul Giamatti. Yeah, I think I was blown away by how down to earth he is, kind of joking around in between takes. And, just a guy doing his job and focusing on the craft. And I remember coming out of that experience and this huge movie and just realizing that it's really the same. It doesn't matter if it's like a student film or like a Hollywood movie that cost $150 million. It's really the same job as an actor. There's a director, there's a camera, there's the other actor, and you just have to do the basics. And I think that gave me a sense of, oh, Hollywood isn't this thing so far away that there's some velvet curtain that you can never get through. I was kind of like, it's right there, and they're all just people trying to do the best job they can. And that one really sunk into me, I think. I shot that a few years back. It just gave me the confidence of like, this is achievable. This dream is tangible and it's just going to be built on hard work. And then after that, I moved to America. I've been lucky to work here. I made my first film use me. Yeah, I think just the feeling of you can do it, grab hold of your dreams. And that it's almost like Hollywood is a state of mind. You know what I mean? It's like you're ready when you believe you're ready. And I think after that experience, I felt like, okay, I'm ready. I can do this. So, yeah, focusing more on yourself and your own personal growth, self-worth, and your craft, that's going to give you a rock solid foundation. That's what I'd say to people. Yeah. It's not about getting approval somewhere else. It's about getting there within yourself. And I know you help people with that, and I try to help people with that too. And I try to remind people that all the time, especially aspiring actors.
Yeah, most definitely. I feel like a lot of people don't realize that everyone is just a person.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's in our own heads. So someone might view you and just be like completely blown away and just be like, oh my gosh, I could never talk to him. Oh my gosh, he's just like this big person that's just so unreachable. And then someone that you've been friends with for a while that's seen you from start to where you are now, you're just a person to them. It's not some celebrity type thing where all of your friends just worship you because of the success that you've had.
God.
Uh, I've definitely had friends that kind of slap me in my face with, they're just like, oh, look at you with your followers. And they just like make fun of me for it. And it keeps you grounded.
Oh man.
And
God.
I think it's important. But one thing that you kind of talked about when we were on the phone the other day was just like, when it comes to the work that you're doing,
Yeah.
putting the passion in it that as if it was something larger. Just
Mm.
anything that you work on, it's not, oh my gosh, I'm only getting paid $100 for this, and you just like blow it off and just kind of half ass everything that you're doing. It's something where it's habit of what you're doing. So like anything that you're a part of, you need to put your all in, because that's the type of thing people see around you.
Yes.
And you never know who you're working with. Like someone that you worked with on one set might get involved in another set, and they're like, I know this guy. He's phenomenal. He's a great person to work with. I loved him. Like he was just like the light on the entire set. He maybe only was on there for a couple 30 minutes, but he
Yeah.
really made a difference. And I think that that's something that a lot of people don't realize. Even in a job, like you might be working at a McDonald's, you might
Yeah.
be working at a retail store. I think that it's important for people to realize that others are watching what you're doing. Every move that you make is an impressionable moment that you can push on someone else, and they're going to remember you for that.
Dude, I hear you. And like you said, you never know who's watching. And like, just to go back to that, that the marriage equality ad, I mean, we're shooting this thing, the suburbs of Sydney, it's 1 a.m. You're like, God, is anyone ever going to see this? No one's thinking, oh, well, Stephen Fry is going to reshare this. Madonna is going to share this on her Facebook. I've had little tiny like short films that were made for nothing that then like amazing directors have ended up seeing like 5 years later. Like it's crazy. So you always want to put your best foot forward. The other advice I would give, if I can just say one more thing, to actors or directors, because you asked before about what do you do when you're getting started? How do you choose what to do? I've realized there's really two things. In a way, money does come into the decision, but here's how I put it. You're either getting paid, right? You're making some fat stacks, or you're building your value. So I've done a lot of film jobs where not only did I maybe not even get paid, but it actually cost me money to go to the set, right? Like I lost money on the job, but I did it because I loved the script, I loved the director, and I was building value. And maybe someone sees that 5-minute short film that cost me money, and they offer me a job a few years later, and that's where the payday comes. So just remember, even a YouTube video you're not getting paid anything for, even an Instagram live, whatever it is, you can be building your value. And if you're just taking the view of, hey, I want to make a lot of money, which I get, we all got to survive, don't forget that the value pays off over time. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, most definitely. I've always told people, I'm just like, just to let you know, like, what you need to do every single day is what you feel good about. Don't do something that is going to eat you up inside. So like in the LGBT community, where people talk about like the hookup culture and all of that different stuff, I've always told people that if you can go out and hook up with someone and still feel good about yourself, then there's no judgment coming from me. I don't judge people for their life choices, but always be aware that your life choices do impact you as a person.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't do things that kind of make you feel bad about yourself. So if you were part of something where it didn't really align with your values and you weren't sure like it was putting a great message across and it just didn't feel right, then don't do it. Like even if it's money, I would highly suggest walking away.
Especially because normally it's the thing, that they'll pay you well, and that you'd be like, God, do I really want to do this though? There's just a comment here. It said the value of unpaid work is worth it in the long run. And I certainly agree if it's good quality stuff that you're doing, And it's funny, I've only really just kind of been starting to make the money that I hoped I would, kind of in the past year or so. But I put it down to all those years of slogging away and building the value. And I know some people here are maybe just getting started in the industry or growing themselves. It does pay off over time. There ain't no such thing as an overnight success. That is for sure, right? It's all built on a solid foundation.
Yeah. So, like, one of the things that I work on is leadership development. And one of the messages I always put across is you should never make people that are working with you feel like they're a burden,
Mm.
because they might not be buying from you today, but the like relationship you create with them, and people remember someone who takes the time out of their day to help them.
Yes.
And like, if you were to work with somebody that you weren't even on the screen, you just kind of gave your wisdom and worked hours on ends to help make their project successful, you never know when that person is going to become successful or hit something that shoots them up to the top.
Yeah.
And it's moments like that that they're just like, I remember that person. I remember the kindness they showed. I remember how they worked for free. And that's the type of stuff that people remember. And I think people have lost that mindset. And a lot of people, like my YouTube videos, I've always told people, I'm like, if my video helped one person, like, not end their life or believe in themselves or come out to their family, it was worth the hours that I took
Mm.
recording it, editing it, and putting it out there online for people to watch. And it was worth all the hate comments that I get for putting it out there. It's that mindset that moves you forward. And it's that mindset that even if you aren't gaining money, you know that you're doing something good. You're putting out a good message. And at the end of the day, that's what keeps me going, because I plateaued for a long time on social media. Like,
Really.
I sat at 5,000 subscribers on YouTube for 2 years. And
Hmm.
I was just like, I'm not gaining anything. What am I doing? And then I just skyrocketed, and I was just like blown away. And it was a video that I shot 6 years ago that got pulled to the front and started pulling in tons of views. And I was like, you know what? It was worth it.
There
Like,
you go. And you persevered, and it goes back to that marathon, not a sprint kind of notion as well.
exactly.
Damn, dude. Well, you're an inspiration, man. I'm impressed that I love what you've done here. I'm honored that you chose to have me participate in this conversation today. I was thrilled when you reached out, and it's been lovely getting to know you. And I'm a big fan of what you're doing. And hopefully we'll get to do one of these again in the future as well.
Yeah, awesome. Hopefully, if COVID lets up, I can travel more and maybe we'll see each other in person.
That sounds definitely
I'm ready to, like, not be sitting in an office by myself.
I hear you, dude. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of cabin fever as well. But yeah, you'll have to come up to Oregon sometime, or I'd love to visit you in Virginia. So hopefully things get somewhat back to normal. We'll see.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this. Like, I definitely believe that when it came to our values, they definitely aligned. After we talked on the phone, I was like, yep, definitely want him on. I'm all about using my platform to help people that follow me find other people, because
Great.
I am one person. And I think that the more their feed is filled of people like you and people that put out messages, I just think that it's just going to help spread the positivity and light that we need so much in the world. So I really appreciate you doing this with me. And I know that it's in the middle of the day for you.
That's
So
okay.
I really appreciate it.
And look, I appreciate your support. And I just want to say, I wanted to do this even before I realized, oh, you're very successful online. And it was actually just because I love your vibe. And I think that's the decision. If you want to choose how to work with people, get to know them a little bit, see what they're all about. And I could tell that you got a heart of gold. So it's been my pleasure, truly.
Thank you so much.
All right, brother. We'll talk
Have a good one.
soon, man. Take it easy.